Who is Sunday more important to, Denver or LA?
Definitely Denver. Definitely Denver. I get you'll probably say, wow, 3-0 in the division if the Chargers win. Huge lead over the Chiefs. But Denver was supposed to be a contender as well, and they haven't looked good. Obviously, they're 1-1, but they haven't played well. You win this game, now you're tied for the top of the division. You're feeling better about yourself. For them to win, I assume Bo Nix will play well. He has not been good. Everything is pretty much down for him. So if he plays well and they win a game, they haven't played the best teams in the league yet, but you beat the Chargers, who have looked great so far.
Looked great.
I think the morale improves, and now Denver is feeling much better about itself.
Yeah, I think objectively the team that's 1-1, it's bigger for them than the team that's 2-0. But I didn't view the Broncos as a playoff team before the year, and I did view the Chargers as a Tier 1 AFC contender. And we just talk about the Bills like, well, they're going to get the 1 seed. The Chargers' schedule is pretty easy. Like, if we want to talk about the Chargers, if you see them like I see them, you win this game, it's a minimum 3-game lead on the Chiefs, no matter what happens Sunday night when you factor in the tiebreakers. If they lose to the Giants, it could be effectively a 4-game lead with the tiebreakers. 1 seed, MVP for Herbert, like all of that stuff, the conversation continues if they win the game. So I just think that they're playing in like a deeper end of the conversation pool with the NFL if they win the game.
Yeah, this would be great for the Chargers, especially after the way Denver lost last week. Yeah, that demoralizing loss that really shouldn't have been a loss. And then for the Chargers to be able to come back out, beat them, put them in a hole. And I'm not sure exactly what the stats are, but teams that have gone 3-0 in division games, start off 3-0 in division games, have a pretty substantial chance of winning the division moving forward. So
we did it on Pack Stats the other day.
Oh, wow.
Well, there have been 11 of them in the modern era. Not all of them win the division. Like,
5 went to the Super Bowl.
But 5 of the 11 have gone to the Super Bowl.
And teams that started their season 3-0 all in the division. Okay, not just started 3-0 in the division, but the first 3 weeks.
Okay, start the season 3-0,
that's
3 division wins.
5 out of the 11 went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, an average 12
That's
wins.
huge.
So no, that's I didn't know that. That's why Pack Stats.
Pack Stats.
That's why it can overcome its
I'm glad you pulled it out of me.
I got it. Case closed. Whatever you want to call it.
So here's the deal. The Chargers, I think, are here to stay this year. You know what I mean? Barring, a chargering, or honestly, only barring something happening to Herbert. You know what I mean? They're going to be in the mix, even if they lose this game. The Broncos, I'm not going to say their season's on the line. What I am going to say is we came into this year, not on this show, but in literally every other corner, the Broncos hype train was in overdrive, and it was driven by Sean Payton, who made it clear he thought, and we can throw up the quote, that this Broncos team was better than most of the Drew Brees Saints teams. The short-term goal is winning the division. This is a team capable of winning the Super Bowl. I've coached 6 teams I thought could win the Super Bowl. Coached Saints 15 years. Some win championship games, some in the playoffs. This is my 7th team that I think has that. That's the table he set for his team and his quarterback. And here is how Bo Nix has responded thus far this year. He's been bad.
Oh my God. God, why can't we just have regular, normal conversations? I mean, seriously. Seriously. First off, there's nothing wrong with what Sean Payne is saying. He didn't say that this is the greatest team I've ever coached. He said, I've coached 6 teams that I thought could win the Super Bowl, which is actually kind of like a, pretty honest and fair assessment of the teams that he's had over his long career, specifically with Drew Brees. And now he just said, this is my 7th team that I think has that. That's all he said. There's nothing any more extreme than that. He didn't say, this is the team that I think is going to go undefeated and they're going to blow out. This team could rock the year that I won the Super Bowl with Drew Brees. Like, he's not saying anything crazy right now. He's not saying anything extreme. He's not saying something as dumb as we're going to go undefeated, never a doubt. So, like, just stop. Like, it's insane. And now we're trying to say Bix has been bad. He's been bad. Okay. He had a rough week 1 game. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Then had a really nice bounce back game, 22 for 30, 206 yards, 6.9 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns. he had that one pick. I know it was just absolutely devastating. No sacks, by the way. He's been great at avoiding sacks big time. 111.2 passer rating and 20 yards rushing with an 18-yard pickup. That was really important. Okay. Throwing absolute dimes to Franklin and Mims, specifically Franklin for sure, hitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different receivers. And we want to say he's been bad. He's been bad throwing touchdowns and spreading the ball around with a 73.3 QBR versus I, and I don't like QBR. I don't like QBR at all. It's a made-up stat that we don't actually know how they reach the conclusion. They don't show us the math. It's a private, thing that's like behind closed doors. So like nobody ever really knows what it is, okay? Because here's Patrick Mahomes now again. First game against Chargers, 24 for 39. Not so great of a completion percentage. 6.6 yards per attempt, 258 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, 2 sacks, QBR of 83.3, and a passer rating of 89.5. And then against the Eagles, 16 for 29, not so great, 187 yards, 6.44 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But we'll say the interception wasn't his fault. We'll be, polite about that. 72.1. But if we also want to be polite about that, then we can also say that this 149-yard touchdown pass to Thornton was pretty much a gimme by the Eagles, with the same thing that happened with Hollywood Brown, another 49-yard pass that should have never happened. So we can take away 49 yards from this game. That's right around 200 yards. We can take away 49 yards from this game, and then that would have given him, around 130 yards or so. So if you want to say, you know what, Bo Nix has not been playing that well, and he's been bad, well, then you better say the same thing about Patrick Mahomes. And don't tell me, well, Patrick Mahomes, he's got some injuries. You told me that the Denver Broncos have a bad team, that their weapons and receiving core are not good. So which is it then? Because if you want to give the benefit of the doubt to Patrick Mahomes for missing Xavier Worthy and Tyreek Hill, or Tyreek Hill, of course, and Rashid Rice, that's fine. But you got Travis Kelce, you got Hollywood Brown, you got Juju Smith-Schuster like I, and you got Andy Reid. You don't think Sean Payton is as great of a coach, right? You think he's overrated and not that good of a coach. And you don't think that they have a good run game or just good offensive personnel to begin with, but then you want to say, look what he's doing. Look what he's doing. Look what he's doing. How does that make sense? Tell me, how does it make sense? It makes no sense. Okay, if you want to say that Bo Nix is being a bad quarterback, then you would have to say that the Denver Broncos offense is a great offense, that this is a great roster, that there's lots of great pieces, but Nick does not believe that. He said it himself. So if he does not believe that, well, then it's not hard to imagine that he believes that Hollywood Brown and Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster, have better weapons, Pacheco and whatnot. And of course, Andy Reid better than Sean Payne. And yet what's going on with Patrick Mahomes? He's putting up worse numbers than this. And some of his numbers are juiced up a little bit because of two plays that were blown by the defenses of the other team. Okay, so like what are we doing here? What are we doing here? It's just kind of crazy here. Passer rating 72, passer rating 89.5. That gives you a passer rating of 80. He's got a higher passer rating than Bonks has a higher passer rating. Touchdown passes, he's got 4. Patrick Mahomes has 2. He's got double, and one of those touchdown passes was wide open, bad defense. And the other touchdown pass was a little short pass to Travis Kelce. That was just another wide open walk into the end zone. H. And this is what's just so obnoxious about this, because we know that week 1 was a bad game, and so now you're in week 2. And this is why using graphics like this in the beginning of the season make no sense. And especially the rankings, it's been 2 games. I just made a video talking about that with the Rams defense. Colin came out and was like, oh, this is the best defense in the second half. Or whatever it was. And it was just like, dude, it's been 2 games. Like, what are we saying here? Right? And so he's saying like, oh, look, this is all bad. And I just gave you the numbers for Patrick Mahomes. But in the very second game, Bo Nix again was 22 for 30, 20 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 111.2 passer rating. What do we think is more indicative of how he will play throughout this season? This game right here or week 1? You tell me. What do we think is more of an indicator of how Bo Nix can play? An outlier game that he did not play so good in, that was the first game of the season. Okay? Or this game, the second game of the season, when he was obviously a lot more comfortable, a lot more in rhythm, and just played an overall better game. Which do we think? What based off of the evidence that we've seen now over these last 2 seasons of him playing a season and 2 games, what were Lena serves? We know that answer. So using a 2-game sample size where someone clearly just did not have their best game as a way to obviously weigh them down, it's insane. You realize that it's insane. It doesn't actually make any sense, because why don't we look at Patrick Mahomes' first handful of games from last year, and let's look at his touchdown to interception ratio and his passer rating and his yards per game. They were awful. But we were like, hey, it's okay. It's the beginning of the season. They're winning. I understand Bo Nix doesn't have 5 Super Bowls, and he doesn't have 5 MVPs, and he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer in year 2. But that means we give just 0 benefit of the doubt. We just throw out any sense of conversation. It's just, unless you want a Super Bowl or MVPs, then we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Otherwise, nope. There's just nope. Just not good. And it's like, how does that make sense? How does that make sense? Because you don't do that for Jalen Hurts, and he won the Super Bowl. People didn't do that for Eli Manning when he won Super Bowls, Trent Dyler, or Joe Flacco. But it's like we only do that for Patrick Mahomes, which is weird. Which is weird, because it's not aging so well as the years go on. That's for sure. That's for sure. I mean, we didn't do it for Brock Purdy, which I'm going to be making a separate video about. We didn't do it for Brock Purdy, and it was in a year when Brock Purdy, his first 2 years, went to an NFC championship game and then a Super Bowl the following year. So he had back-to-back years of high-level success. And then in 2024, when things weren't as great as they were in years past, they were like, oh, yep, he's just not good. I told you so. And it's like, wait a second. Huh? Well, then why is it okay for Patrick Mahomes? Well, because Patrick Mahomes has proven himself. A quarterback who's then gone to an NFC championship game in his first year starting, and then the second year got to a Super Bowl and left the field with the win. That's not enough. But if he won the Super Bowl, then it would be enough. Although it wouldn't be enough, because we don't do it for Jalen Hurts. I don't know which direction am I looking at right now at this point. My head's about to explode. I mean, it's just bonkers to me. It really is. I didn't even get to answer the question. I thought that was going to make this video, not so much about Bo Nixon, just about the Denver Broncos team, because it's important for both teams. I do think it's more important for Broncos, and it is self-inflicted, because they should be 2-0, and they should be more than capable, be more than allowed to lose this game. You're not expecting them to win every single game. I'm not expecting for Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos to look awesome in every single game. But when you do start off one-on-one, your margin of error is a lot bit smaller earlier on in the season, especially when now going up against a divisional team. And a win here would be able to make a comment like, Nick sound insane. If Bix plays well and they win the game, that puts that to bed, and that does do a long way of getting everyone feeling settled, feeling good, feeling momentum building, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Where a loss, becomes, I was going to say asymmetrical, but probably pretty symmetrical, from the sense of like, it would feel pretty uncomfortable. Bo Nix doesn't play well, has a touchdown and 2 interceptions or something, and you're just like, now you're just kind of like, well, maybe Bo was a slow starter. This is what happened last year. And it's like, yeah, but he was a rookie last year, and then you got to kind of have to do this whole song and dance and like, What's Sean Payton doing? What about that play call? Why did he call that? Why did he call that? Why is this defense not as good as we thought it was going to be, right? Like things just kind of start to spiral a little bit. The Chargers have room to lose this game because, again, you can't win every single game. But from a team perspective for the Chargers, obviously it goes a very long way going 3-0 in the division. 3-0 in the division. 3-0 just on the for the team as a whole. Obviously is really big. And, you know, he threw in Danny Parkins, threw in, or Perkins, I never know. Threw in the whole thing about the MVP and stuff. That's for Justin Herbert, though. That's an individual thing. This game is huge for Justin Herbert. For him to go 3-0 and to win all these games and to build an MVP resume. But we're looking at it specifically through the lens of the Broncos or the Chargers. And that's the same thing, though, if we want to zoom back into Bo Nix, because that's what we want to magnify here. And look, 27th, 23rd, 27th, like, uh-oh. So then what about Patrick Mahomes' passer rating? It's going to be, what is it, 28th, 29th, 30th. What is he beating? Spencer Rattler and, J.J. McCarthy. Congrats. But so I think with all of this here, though, it would be, it would be a cooling presence here. You know, getting the win on the road against a tough team, a team that has a lot of momentum, a team that everyone's really high on. You come away a win with here, it definitely just goes a very long way. And being 2-1, this is where it is asymmetrical, is very different than being 1-2. It just is. And the only win that you would have now is against a team, against a rookie quarterback in his first ever start in his NFL career. And like that was also a game that like you could have been like, we could have lost that game too, right? And so like that's the tricky part about trying to draw conclusions so early on in the season. But make no mistake about it, man, teams and coaching staffs, the players and the coaching staff, they're trying to reach their own conclusions. They have all these opinions and views and saying, oh, hey, we're going to be great, we're going to be great, we're going to win, we're going to win. And then reality sits in and it's like, are you great or are you not great? Can you win or can't you win? And so early on in the season, getting some momentum, getting some belief, it matters. Even people who saw Bo Nix during the offseason and last season, and they believe in him and they say, man, I think Bo Nix is great. I think Bo Nix is great. But if he starts off the season and you're not playing well, you start to be like, I don't know, was he great? Was he just kind of good last year? Like, you get doubt. Doubt infiltrates the mind very easily in professional sports. And so all of that is on the table, but all of that could be just gone in an instant with a big win here on the Chargers. But I will just really plant the flag as firm as I can to say that like it's unfortunate because it should not be that in isolation. Bo Nix and the Broncos, it's fully okay for them to not light up the Chargers or look perfect or look amazing or look like they're just ready to dominate because quite frankly, the Chargers should be ahead of the Broncos. They should be ahead of they have the more experienced quarterback who's been in the NFL for longer. They have been able to build this team and make pretty aggressive moves in a way that you would say, I don't want to say more than the Broncos, but the how do I want to phrase this? There's a perceived foundation, even if I personally don't 100% agree with it. A perceived foundation of like, hey, the Chargers have been a little inconsistent, but like, hey, they were competing here and there, and it wasn't so long ago, just even with Justin Herbert going up against the Jags and whatnot, right? Like, there was some energy, some momentum where the Broncos had none of it. They had absolutely none of it. They were just collapsing. And again, to be fair, they both got new coaches who are both now like, hey, let's get this going here. And so they're both in the, in a lot of ways, they are following similar tracks here. But again, Justin Herbert has been in the NFL much longer than Bo Nix, and that can't be understated. And so I think if you were looking at both these teams on the surface, you would say, yeah, I expect the Broncos in terms of like at least a timeline perspective. I expect the Chargers to be a little bit more ahead in terms of how quickly or how high can they achieve, the level of greatness that I believe both these teams are on the table for. To be clear, I think both the Chargers and the Broncos have the potential to be great teams and Super Bowl contenders for the foreseeable future. But I'm just I am patient with things. I don't expect teams and quarterbacks in year 2 to just automatically be able to be dominant and just hit the ground running and to just ball. Like that's not my viewpoint at all. So it's just exhausting that when things aren't just completely, when you just don't hit the ground running, it's exhausting that we then use that as a jumping off point to try to bury people or to try to do some sort of dance, as in like, see, this is what I've been trying to, and it's just like, what are we talking about right now? What nonsense is this? And if we can bring nuance to why someone like Patrick Mahomes is struggling over these first couple of games, or why the Chiefs can be 0-2, but they're actually a pretty good team, then we can bring some nuance to Bo Nix's first 2 starts of this season, especially when comparing it to what we saw the entire season last year. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. We're allowed to bring nuance to other players outside of Patrick Mahomes. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. Got a little unhinged there, baby. Love it. Sunday, Saturday clips. It's the weekend. But let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. I am fired up. Let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.